Good evening, brothers. Thank you all for joining us tonight for the webinar, the 1848 Housing webinar on how food service can make your chapter stand out on campus. First and foremost, I'd like to introduce our two presenters for tonight. Dave Schreck, Kansas State 1969. He is a member of 1848 Housing and oversees the Food Services Committee. And Wayne Hargrove, Kansas State 1970, pledge brother of Dave, as I'm sure they'll talk about when they introduce themselves. And he serves on Dave's Food Service Committee. Now, brothers, as you have questions throughout the presentation and discussion, please feel free to utilize the Q&A feature at the bottom, and I'll serve as the moderator of those questions for tonight's discussion. So Dave, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us today, brothers. My name is Dave Schreck. As Dio said, I'm a 1969 graduate of Kansas State University. And joining me tonight is one of my pledge brothers, Wayne Hargrove, 1970 at Kansas State. Wayne served over 25 years as general manager of full service restaurants. And he and four other people helped me on this committee. I worked with Starbucks for several years, and I had an executive chef who participated, a food safety manager, a category manager, and a gentleman who also worked in full service restaurants before he joined me at Starbucks. So first of all, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my background. And Wayne, anytime that you have something to add, just jump in.
Okay.
I am honored to have been one of the 24 people who founded the Chi Deuteron chapter at Kansas State in 1968. And during my time there, I served as the pledge educator. And the year I graduated, when I went to graduate school, I served as the Purple Legionnaire. Later on in my years, I served as the president of the Atlanta graduate chapter in like about 2002. I served as an Archon counselor with Bill Martin from 2004 to 2006. In 2007, I was the Purple Legionnaire at the Gamma Tau chapter at Georgia Tech. Wayne and I have been to most every pig dinner since 1968, but I really wasn't that involved with my own chapter until 2 years ago. And they called me about some food service issues that they were having because I spent my career in food service. And I'll just give you a brief rundown. I graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in Bakery Science and Management. I worked for 4 years as a sales territory manager for a major flour milling company. For 12 years, I worked for Federated Department Stores, which most of you today would know as Macy's. In the 70s and early 80s, food service was very big in department stores. I managed restaurants, catering, and bakery operations. In 1986, I became a partner in a very small catering company here in Atlanta called Proof of the Pudding. Over 4 years, we built it up to become the largest corporate offsite catering company in Atlanta, and I'm proud to say that it's still around today. I sold my interest and jumped from the frying pan into the fire, and I bought a bakery. And that bakery had 2 retail locations as well as a corporate mail order business. I owned that for 10 years. And in 1998, I sold my interest and I joined Starbucks Coffee Company. During my 16 years at Starbucks Coffee Company, I served as a regional food and beverage manager, managing pastry programs, as a district manager, managing operations in 14 stores, and as a regional director of operations, managing 105 stores. I've been retired now for 7 years. And 2.5 years ago, I got a call from one of my brothers in Manhattan, Kansas, who said, we've been failing health department inspections. Could you take a look at the report and tell me what you think? They clearly were struggling with some food safety issues. I flew up to Manhattan and looked at the kitchen for myself. We had our own cook, and he was very erratic in his performance. What I found out during that visit is that they really wanted me to join the House Corporation, and I did as president in January of 2019. And one of the decisions that we made was that we needed to have a professional food service operator. Not that that's a requirement for success, because at Phi Gamma Delta, we have only about 25% of our chapters have contract food operations. The rest have their own cooks. So we have a lot of operations with our own cooks. So I served as 2 years as the House Corporation president, turned the chapter and the House Corporation around. And just this last February, I turned the leadership over to the next generation, and I became the Board of Chapter Advisors chairman. When I had the opportunity to join this committee, we started looking at how does food add to the strategic value of the fraternity experience. And, one of the things that we have to look at when we consider what we offer young men to come to college is every piece of the experience. And we have to look at our competition. We have on-campus housing with dormitories and scholarship houses. Obviously, we have other fraternities that we compete with for talent. Some students want to live in small apartment homes or complexes, and then there are also luxury apartments. So this is a competitive landscape that we face when we're trying to attract top-notch talent into our chapters. So when you think about where do we compete with these other housing options? Well, safety and security, commitment to scholastic success. I know that when I was in the dorms in 1965 at Kansas State, nobody was trying to teach me how to study. Exceptional property management, the repairs, the maintenance, the renovations, the location, proximity to campus. Our campus, or our house at Kansas State, is only 3 blocks off campus. Parking, or do we offer a parking lot for our members only, or do they have to do on-street parking? Being able to reside with men of shared values. In a dormitory, you're put with people. Maybe you get to room with someone that you know, maybe you don't. Leadership skill development. At Phi Gamma Delta and at fraternities, we actually help young men develop their leadership skills, whereas apartments and university housing doesn't offer that. Campus reputation and social status depends on where you live and what you tell people where you live as to what they think about your status on campus. Responsible on-site adult presence. In dorms, you have RAs. In fraternities and sororities, you often have a house mother. We always did until 2 years ago when we decided to employ a resident advisor who is a Fiji, a 1979 graduate, Greg Nelson. And he and his wife live in the fraternity house. So is there a responsible adult on site? How active we are in the community and with philanthropic involvement and on campus is an important part of what we offer to men. And then food service. And you might ask, well, is food service really a competitive differentiator? First of all, apartments and luxury apartments don't offer food service. So unless you want to cook your own meals, buy your own food, that's not an option. And I have a nephew who's in the luxury apartment university business, and he said, we'll never be in food service. So that gives us a competitive advantage. The fraternities do offer food service. So that is a competitive disadvantage, perhaps. One of the things that you can very easily do to find out who your competition is in the fraternities is reach out to your IFC or your fraternity and sorority life organization. And they probably have taken a survey to see how many fraternities have their own cook or contract with an outside company. It's an interesting part to know about your competition because it's not like we can go over and say, hey, can I sit down and eat at your house? When I reached out to FSL at Kansas State, they told me that we have 27 fraternities and 14 sororities. All but 3 have contract food operations, which really surprised me. Only 3 have their own cooks, whereas in Phi Gamma Delta, nationally, 75% of our houses have their own cooks. But if you remember that Phi Gamma Delta is a social fraternity, and so how does food add to the social experience? Well, when you think about it, we don't go out to dinner with family and friends just so that we can survive. We don't have lunch with colleagues just so that we don't starve to death. And when or if we're single, we don't go out on a date just to keep ourselves alive. Eating good food with people that you like is a very compelling social experience. The undergrads at Kansas State tell me the better the food, the better the chapter morale. That's from the horse's mouth. Very important statement for me to learn from them. So there are some questions that you should ask yourself when you're assessing your food operation. Is our kitchen clean? Do we pass every health department inspection without any critical issues? And by the way, let me tell you that Dio is going to email this entire presentation to you afterwards. So if you're taking notes, you'll get the whole thing. But even if we do have critical issues noted by the health department, who follows up on it? Who ensures that they're corrected? Do you have a high participation rate by the brothers eating at the house? Or do you find that they go out to restaurants or not eat meals at the house because they find other choices more appealing? I actually had a father tell me 2 years ago he was paying his son, even though he was on our meal program, so he could go out to restaurants and eat because he didn't like the house food. Do your out-of-house members eat at the house? Is the food a compelling reason for them to come to the house? It is a good thing because having the older members around, like out-of-house seniors, gives the younger brothers the opportunity to engage with them more often. Would you say that your members are proud of their dining room and their meal service? Do they invite guests to the house for dinner? University faculty speakers, sorority leadership teams? Is it something that they can be proud of? Is your dining room and your food service a positive part of your rush program? Are your members comfortable inviting rushies and their parents to come to the house? Parents are very influenced by what's my son's college experience going to be like? What is he going to end up having to eat? Are they parents impressed on mom's weekend and dad's weekend, or do the boys just take them out to eat at another restaurant? Is your dining room a place where brothers enjoy getting together every day to get away from the respite of classes, the respite of classes, a place to celebrate birthdays or scholarship accomplishments? Is it a place where the men like to gather? Do you offer a 24-hour snack program so that your brothers can have a PBJ in the middle of the night, go down and get a yogurt or a bagel? You know, whether you employ your own cook or have a professional food company provide your food service, you have to realize that this is a business. Is your cook or your contract company, do they have the same goals as your chapter when it comes to food service? Do you know? Are they operating on a budget? Do they live within that budget? You certainly don't want your food program to be a drag on the chapter budget. Is the program meeting or exceeding your members' expectations? There's a great French chef, Auguste Escoffier, who lived in the late 1800s, in the early 1900s, and he said, "We do not meet to eat. We eat while we meet." What was he saying? The purpose of coming together to eat is not because we need to eat. Of course we do, but remember that it's a very important part of our social experience. So if you look at your food program and you say, I don't really have everything that I want, how do you go forward from here? I think there are 12 to 15 participants on this call tonight. And I would say to you that you could consider 1848 Properties a resource. If you have questions that you want to email or to call me about to assess your food program, there's something missing. We have an opportunity. I don't know how to go forward. I'm fortunate. I spent my entire career, as did Wayne, working in this business. I can tell you that my contract food operator considers me one of his most demanding customers because our members are who we serve. So with that said, I'd like to open it up and say, what questions or feedback do you have for Wayne and I where we might be able to support you?
Awesome. So Dave, we have a few questions that have come in. First one's from Bill Oliver, and he asks, at Penn State, classes continue over the normal dinner time, up to 8 p.m. sometimes. It takes away the joint dinner time and then takes away a joint get-together time. What advice do you have to overcome this?
Well, the main thing that we want to make sure of is that the members do get fed, and we have a late plate program, which I think many chapters do, so that a brother who knows that he's going to be in class until late can arrange for a late plate to make sure, number one, that he gets fed. He can take that late plate, go back to his room and be with his roommate, or to join with brothers in another part of the house, or in the dining room to eat. The men do have those conflicts, and it's important that the food service does provide that late meal opportunity.
Now, Dave, if a facility does not have a commercial kitchen, do you think they could still contract with the food service provider? If so, how does that work, or what does that look like?
Not having a professional kitchen obviously puts challenge on you. I've heard of chapters that contract with local caterers to bring in meals, boxed meals. And I've also heard of food service operators who on campus who might have a full service kitchen at another location and bring food over. The feedback I've gotten on that, and I did hear from a brother at the University of Illinois who said that they did that for a while, where their caterer, because they did not have a kitchen at the time, their food service provider fixed all the hot food at another location, brought it over in hot carts, set it out on their buffet, on their hot buffets. But he said, frankly, it wasn't working. If I found myself in that kind of a situation, I would certainly be looking to local caterers who could be contracted with to provide up to 3 meals a day as boxed meals. Or I know that some chapters have contracted with the university so that their members can eat at the dining halls or at the food service at the union.
Perfect. Thank you, Dave. And you kind of touched on this in your presentation, but some of those additional benefits to the chapter, aside from consistently good food, what do those look like? And could you provide some examples of real life experiences, where you've seen some of those benefits put to practice and the advantages that they presented for the chapter?
Well, it's really interesting. I've seen a lot of chapters who have had their own cooks. Most of us have probably seen the Louisiana State University YouTube video this last week about the cook that had been with the chapter for 14 years, and they had a celebration about her and paid off her mortgage. I don't know if you guys have seen that on YouTube or not, but there are a lot of houses that have very solid cooks that have stayed with their houses for years. Back when Wayne and I were in school, we had a cook that stayed with us for our entire time there and several years afterwards. So there isn't a one size fits all answer. I think if you have your own cook and he or she is doing a great job, there are the questions that you want to ask and follow up on to see. For instance, I haven't this last year, but I visit Kansas State every quarter to do a personal tour of the kitchen to see, does it look clean? Is it organized? Is it under control? Now I have experience in that. I even do FaceTime videos with my chef every week so he can show me that he's actually doing the work that we're paying the contract food company to do. That's not something that everyone can do because I'm retired. I have the time. A contract food operator, and I have managed contract food businesses, large ones. No matter what you do, and I think, Wayne, you can speak to this as well. Food business is a tough business. It's not easy to operate day in and day out well. But if you have problem signs coming up, whether you have a contract operator or whether you have your own cook, is the cook erratic in his attendance? That's a problem we had. And the boys had 24-hour access to the kitchen, which meant that we had no food safety practices going on at all. So if the chef didn't show up, the boys went in and fix their own food. Well, that's ridiculous because first of all, they pay for it. And second of all, they have no idea what they're doing in there. And they could create food safety issues. Is your kitchen being cited with critical issues by the health department? Are your men telling you, I'm not happy with the food? Same thing gets served every week. Get too much pizza, too much pasta. If you're getting those signs, you'll know whether your food program is working or not. And I'm assuming that because some of you are on this call, you are getting those signals. Some things could be better. So whether you have a contract food operator, as we do at Kansas State, or you have a cook who's been successful with you for many years, if you're not getting the experience that your members are paying for, if you're not meeting or exceeding their expectations, you should ask for help. Wayne, anything that you'd like to add to that?
No, I think, from our experience, when we were living in the house, we had a great cook. And I mean, she made homemade rolls, salad dressings from scratch. So we had and she was there every day, no matter what. Um, so we were pretty lucky in that respect. And I think that there still are a lot of those people out there um, that have those experiences. So if you have that, you can work with that. Um, but we, as 18, 19, 20-year-olds, didn't have any idea what it should be. So we just got lucky, you know? So, and I think that's something you have to look at with the men in the house. They don't have those years of experience in food service to know what it should be like. So that's something that the board of chapter advisors or your house corporation or your Purple Legionnaire or your resident advisor can assist with, and who's there every day and can see that what's going on. Because I know when we were in the house at 19 years old, uh, we didn't know what we were doing. We were learning along all those life lessons and leadership skills that we were teaching ourselves since we started out as a colony, and we didn't have anybody older or had anybody with any more experience than we were doing on our own. So,
Well, and I think you have to ask. At Starbucks, we used to call that going out and looking for trouble. I would walk through the cafes of a Starbucks and go up to customers and say, how good of a job are we doing for you? Are there things that we could do better? What would you change if you could change things? Sometimes you have to reach out and ask. If you're not getting the feedback, if they tell you everything is great and they love it, you're doing well. But if the health department, and who sees your health department reports? Does the cook pass them along to the house mother, or to who are they responsible to? So if you're experiencing less than satisfactory issues for what they pay, and food service is expensive. We have 46 men in our house, and we're spending over $100,000 a year, which doesn't boil down to much on a 15 meal per week plan. It boils down to $5 or $6 a meal, but it costs more than that to go to McDonald's to get a quarter pounder fries and a drink now.
So David, Wayne, kind of off that point, what is the best way to survey brothers and members experiencing that food? Is that something that the provider facilitates? If so, what does that look like?
Our contractor does have customer service people that actually go into the field and visit the chapters and ask. They also have an app that our men can use to see what the menus are, to sign up for late plates, to let the cook know if they have nutritional issues or if they have food allergies. But they also can provide the cook with feedback, the chef or the cook. The men are allowed to provide feedback to tell them, hey, we really liked what you served tonight, or hey, why do we have to have lasagna every Sunday night? Why can't we have ribs? So there's that. Now, if your chapter has your own cook and you don't have that, do you have any method for the men to provide feedback? I was speaking with a company called Our House Software, located in California. I was talking to them last week, and they have a food management app that they sell to fraternities and sororities that does what this contract food company does. So if you happen to like your cook and he or she is doing a great job and you're not experiencing any problems, then maybe this kind of an approach would be a good way for your members to provide feedback. Is your house mother the person that the cook works with? That was the way it was in our house up until 2.5 years ago. Who's talking to the house mother? Are we engaging with her and saying, what are we hearing? Are we talking to the cabinet? Are we, or through the Purple Legionnaire? We're very fortunate at Kansas State because we have a House Corporation, a BCA, a Purple Legionnaire, and a resident advisor. So we have a lot of ways for our men to communicate with us. But if you don't have some of those things, I would encourage you to, again, reach out to me or send me an email or say, hey, we'd really like to fix this piece of what we do. Let's consider the options, whether it be a menu problem, a health department problem, an attendance problem by your staff, a contract management company problem. Contract management companies are not the 100% answer. They are an answer. Your cook can be an answer. Caterers can be an answer. So there are several different ways to approach this.
So Dave, one of the questions.
Just a second, Dale.
Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
What did you guys come on here tonight to find out that I'm not telling you about?
So Dave, we have one question that came in revolving around the topic of safety in some sense. The question reads, we do not have a fryer and the cooking members want one. I feel that in fraternity, they pose a fire hazard and you need to get rid of the old grease and constantly replace it. Using your professional experience, what are your thoughts on something along those lines?
Well, it's interesting that you would bring that up because in our kitchen, although we have a full service commercial kitchen, we do not have a deep fryer. And so I got the approval of the chapter to purchase a double basket deep fryer to install on our line. Now, you have to have a fire protection hood with a fire protection system to prevent fires. And the grease has to be strained every day because if you don't, it breaks down and the food tastes terrible. So is it a good thing to have? Yeah, if you've got somebody that knows how to use it and you have the fire protection system. And we had to work with the Manhattan Fire Department to make sure that we got approval, as well as our fire protection system company. So does it give you additional capabilities? Yes. Do you have to have systems to protect yourself from a grease fire? Absolutely. Is it extra work? Yeah. But it's kind of like saying, well, you can't have a saute pan in your kitchen. So you're going to be very limited to what you can prepare. Having a deep fryer does expand your capabilities, but it does require a professional approach to ensure that your house is safe.
Perfect. Thank you, Dave. Now, if you were to give kind of a step-by-step instruction, if those standards that you alluded to earlier aren't up to your standards, aren't up to where you or the chapter would like them to be, it seems like the first step would be getting feedback from the members themselves. What would be the follow-up steps and what should those conversations look like with the food service provider?
Well, if you can find out, and there are really, in addition to the chapter members who are your customers, and you clearly want to know what they think. They have to feel safe in providing you with feedback. And sometimes the reality is that they're afraid that if they say something bad, their cook will get fired. The members build bonds with the cooks over the years. They don't want to do anything that endangers their job. That's a reality. So you have to talk to the members. you have to talk to the house mother or the resident advisor. My resident advisor is a brother. He's 62 years old, and he hits me straight with what he likes and what he doesn't like. And I ask him. His wife gives me straightforward feedback as well. You also have to ask your Purple Legionnaire, assuming that you have one. And if you have a property manager, which we do, another brother, they can give you their assessment of the kitchen and the operation. If you can, go and attend a dinner unannounced. Stop in to have dinner. See what the food's like. See what the service is like. Ask if the cook will give you a tour of the kitchen. You have to go out and ask. You have to go out and look for trouble, so to speak. That's the first thing that you would do is go out and get feedback. Once you get feedback, if you don't know what to do with it, reach out to me. Or if you have a brother on your house corporation that has a food service background, or on your board of chapter advisors, or any brother that happens to live nearby, reach out to them. Ask them, what would you do if you were in this situation? I've got this problem that I really think that we should fix. How do I go about this? Does that answer the question that you guys wanted to?
What if there isn't a brother with that level of experience to facilitate those discussions?
My email and my phone number are on the presentation Dio's going to send to you. I am one of your brothers. I will give you guidance, and I'll see if I can connect you with someone who's close to you. But my advice is free.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Dave. I know a lot of brothers will probably be contacting you in the near future.
I'm glad there aren't 200 guys on this call.
It is pre-recorded though, so you never know. So Dave and
Wayne, is there anything else that you would have added to that?
No, I think that was excellent.
Okay. Is there anything else at all that you'd like to ask about your food business and how it can be a strategic support to your fraternity experience?
Brothers, please feel free to continue utilizing the Q&A feature as I asked one of our closing questions. So Dave and Wayne, I'm gonna put you both a little bit on the spot here. For chapters that don't have a food service provider, what is your advice and suggestion when assessing their options?
I interviewed 5 different companies before I selected the company that I did. I'm a very difficult interviewer. Forgive me for saying this, but you can't bullshit a bullshitter. And if you want to talk to outside companies, I think that we should find out, first of all, who services your campus? Who's the competition? Who's already working on your campus? Believe me, if they think they've got an opportunity to serve you, they'll come talk to you. But if you want help in interviewing them, and if you don't have anybody, reach out to me. I'm here as part of the 1848 properties to be a resource to you. So you would need to find out who services in my area, who's already on my campus, and are they interested in our business? Wayne?
I think that's about it.
Yeah.
And also, Dave, I think you should mention that I knew when we were making that changeover, you also interviewed the cook who was there employed prior to having the contract food service as an option as well.
Yeah, I actually tried to keep the cook. I had an extensive interview with him. We talked about what was working and what wasn't. And we came to the conclusion that he really wasn't prepared to do what we needed to have done. And he found a job somewhere else, and that was fine. And we chose another way to get our business done. I'm going to close and say that this is a tough part of the fraternity experience. And what I want you to know is that I'm willing to offer my thoughts and ask you the kinds of questions that you would need to be able to answer to explore, do I want to hire a cook or do I want to hire a food contract company? I'm not happy with the way it's working. What should I do? How do I go forward? So I'm going to close and give you the gift of time, 18 minutes early, and tell you that 1848 is here to be helpful. And if I can be helpful, reach out to me and let us see what we can determine about your situation and how we could create a plan to move forward to help you build greater success into your program. I'm going to thank you. Wayne, I appreciate you being here. Thank you, brothers. And I'm the host now, so I'm going to end the call. Very nice talking with you. I appreciate it. Mighty proud to be a Fiji.